Mm. In 1908, Bosnia had been annexed by Austria to cater to the imperialist designs of aggressive Germany. The assassin, a native of Bosnia, spoke Yugoslav, but he was not a Serbian. An Austrian secret agent reported that the plot had been made at Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, and that certain Serbian officials had helped the assassin to secure arms. In the Austrian Empire, the suppressed nationalities wished to overthrow the imperialist yoke and be free. Austria wanted to punish the criminal and all those who backed him, as she feared that other nationalities may rise in revolt and threaten the very existence of the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary. Today, ultimatum by Austria. Count Berchtold, the Austro-Hungarian foreign minister, gave a strongly worded two-day ultimatum to Serbia on July 23, 1914. Berchtold deliberately made it extremely provocative. It carried a severe threat that she would take action if the agitation against Austria in Serbia was not quelled. Further, Serbia was asked to allow Austrian officers to enter Serbia and make the necessary investigation regarding the crime that had been committed. Serbia promptly and submissively. Today ultimatum by Austria. Count Berchtold, the Austro-Hungarian foreign minister, gave a strongly worded two-day ultimatum to Serbia on July 23, 1914. Berchtold deliberately made it extremely provocative. It carried a severe threat that she would take action if the agitation against Austria in Serbia was not quelled. Further, Serbia was asked to allow Austrian officers to enter Serbia and make the necessary investigation regarding the crime that had been committed. Serbia promptly and submissively replied before the expiry of 48 hours but that she was prepared to comply with all the demands of Austria, but she would not allow Austria to make an investigation of the crime on Serbian soil. She did not like to be treated as a vassal of Austria and would not allow any insult to her sovereignty. However, she expressed her willingness to refer the matter to the Hague Tribunal for settlement. Austria angrily reacted against Serbia, saying that the reply did not meet her demands. She wished to bully Serbia into submission and declared impatiently war on Serbia on July 28, 1914, 5 days after serving the ultimatum. The course of events since the middle of the 19th century till 1914 showed that Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy, England, France, Romania, and Japan made their own contribution to the outbreak of the war. It would be unfair to single out any particular nation for apportioning blame. Course of the war. The war was a long nightmare of 4 years, 1914 to 1918. It began on July 28, 1914 and ended on November 11, 1918. Parties. Britain and the whole of the British Empire, France, Russia, Italy, Romania, Greece, Serbia, Belgium, Portugal, China, and Japan were together known as allies. Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey, and Bulgaria were known as the Central Powers. The United States joined the Allies in April 1917. 20 nations were involved in the Titanic struggle. Austria declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Germany and Russia. Russia refused to stop mobilizing an army as demanded by Germany. This made Germany declare war on Russia on August 1, 1914. Germany and France. As France refused to be neutral, Germany declared war on her on August 3, 1914. Germany and England. Germany wished to send an army through Belgium to crush France. European powers had guaranteed Belgium's neutrality. Therefore, when a German army invaded Belgium on August 4, the very same day England declared war on Germany. Italy's position became awkward as she was a member of the Triple Alliance. She had to help Germany, but she said that she was not prepared to help Austria and Germany in the war of aggression. Italy had made a secret agreement with France for some time. She remained neutral, but in 1915 she entered the war on the Allied side. Germany's early action. When the war broke out, Germany, with ample resources, was in a buoyant mood. But she had the most powerful army in Europe, and the German people are full of enthusiasm to fight for making Germany the greatest power. As Germany's army marched through Belgium towards France, the Belgians gave a tough fight, enabling the French to prepare themselves for resistance. But the Belgians mere defeated, and Belgium became a German province. The German army cut through several French cities. Route of Russia. Russia invaded Germany and Austria to help Serbia, but the Russian army was neither well trained nor well equipped. The Germans routed by the Russians and occupied Russian Poland. In 1917, in the bloody Bolshevik Revolution, Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown and a communist republic was established. The Russians had no other alternative but to surrender to Austria and Germany and sue for peace. Russia had to withdraw from the war before it ended by signing the humiliating Treaty of Brest-Litovsk on March 18 and surrendering a huge piece of territory. It has to be especially noted that the side of Britain and her allies on which Russia fought was ultimately victorious, but Russia was a loser in the bargain. Turkey. In 1914, Turkey entered the war on the German side. Bulgaria. Bulgaria joined the war in 1950. Romania, taking the side of Britain, entered the war in 1916. She fared badly and was severely beaten and conquered by the Central Powers. Entry of the United States of America. While Germany did well in the early rounds of the war, her prospects of victory became dim later, and she thought of using desperate measures with the aim of destroying British sea power. Germany began submarine warfare. To begin with, she promised the United States of America that she would not attack her ships. But on January 31, 1917, suddenly Germany withdrew the promise and threatened to prevent the entry of all ships in the seas around Britain, France, and Italy. Germany played havoc on the ships of England and of the United States. In May, a German U-boat sank the British steamer Lusitania with 1,200 passengers, including 100 Americans. This outrage raised a storm of protest in the United States. The United States was provoked as Germany violated the freedom of the seas. Moreover, she heard that Germany was planning attack on her by Mexico and Japan. She therefore declared war on Germany on April 6, 1917, and Austria in December 1917. The entry of the United States was a turning point in the war. She joined fresh and poured her huge resources in favor of the Allies. Failure of Austria. The Austrians failed in June 1918 in their attack on the Italians, and this was a great setback to Germany. Allies hit back. The Allies hit back ultimately against Germany's submarine attacks, though in the beginning their losses were very heavy. Gradually, Germany lost the edge of submarine warfare as the British overall naval supremacy could not be beaten. Germany failed to isolate England with the help of her submarines. Surrender. Bulgaria surrendered unconditionally on September 13, 1918. Turkey and Austria-Hungary followed Bulgaria's footsteps a month later. Germany itself surrendered unconditionally in November 1918. Kaiser William II of Germany fled to the Netherlands on November 9, 1918. Soon other members of his family followed him. On November 11, 1918, Germany and the Allies signed the Armistice, use of new weapons and tactics. In the First World War, new weapons and tactics were used. Cavalry was put to little use, but artillery had a very wide scope. Airplanes flew on both the sides to drop bombs. After Germany used poisonous gases, the Allies retaliated with the use of the same prohibited gases. Iron tanks were used extensively by the Allies. Germany sent her U-boats, undersea boats, or submarines with terrific effect. The engines of electric traction were put to the most devastating use by both the sides. Quite unlike the wars of the ancient and Middle Ages, it was the machine and not man that counted much in battle. Machine guns, bombs, airplanes, warships, submarines, and other weapons or equipment were employed to let loose a veritable hell on earth. The British Navy, which was supreme on the sea during the war, was a great asset to the Allies. The Central Powers, which were fighting against the biggest empire commanding unlimited resources, surprised the world by the display of their terrible war machine. The Central Powers in the dust. Regarding the fate of Germany and her friends, it could be aptly said as in the proverb, pride goes on horseback grand and gay, but returns on foot and begs its way. The Central Powers lay in the dust with total humiliation and disgrace. They surrendered all their war equipment and were ready to carry out the dictates of the victorious. It was agreed that the final peace settlements would be made on the basis of the statements of President Woodrow Wilson of America. The statements, known as the 14 points, laid down the following in January 1918 in the form of the war aims of the Allies. No, number one, no secret diplomacy. Number two, freedom of the seas. Number three, elimination of economic barriers. Number four, reduction of national armaments. Number five, impartial adjustments of colonial claims. Number six, evacuation of Russia. Number seven, restoration of Belgium. Number eight, restoration of Alsace Lorraine to France. 9. Completion of Italian national unification. 10. Self-determination for the peoples of Austria-Hungary. 11. Self-determination for the Balkans. 12. Self-determination for Turkey. 13. Independence of Poland. 14. Establishment of the League of Nations. The Paris Peace Conference. The Peace Conference was held in January 1919 at Paris. The victorious powers intended to dictate treaties to the vanquished powers. Therefore, only the representatives of the Allies were present, and those of the defeated powers were conspicuous by their absence. Conspicuous by their absence. 17 delegates representing 32 nations met. Among them, the most important were Lloyd George, the British Premier, Clement Q, the French Premier nicknamed Tiger, President Woodrow Wilson of the United States, and Premier Orlando of Italy. These were known as the Big Four. Unfortunately, the great statesmen who met at Paris failed to show true statesmanship and to exercise proper imagination. They committed costly mistakes and sowed the seeds of another world war. 20 years later, the Second World War, 1939 to 1945, more terrible and longer than the First World War, broke out. The following five treaties were drafted to make the Peace of Paris, 1919 to 1920. 1. The Treaty of Versailles with Germany on June 28, 1919 in the Hall of Mirrors. 2. The treaty with Austria at Saint Germain on September 10, 1919. 3. The treaty with Bulgaria at Neuilly on November 27, 1999. 4. The treaty with Hungary at the Trianon in Versailles on June 4, 1920. 5. The treaty with Turkey at Sevres on August 10, 1920.